Welcome back to Coach's Corner. It's kind of our beginning of the winter sports season, Coach's Corner. Last week we had Ponca City boys coach Al Hibbler on, and we've talked with wrestling coach Chris Walker. We've also got our athletic director and girls basketball coach Dwight Winburn on our program today. The Ponca City boys and girls basketball teams 2 weeks away from starting the season. In fact, a couple of weeks from this weekend, starting the season. But I'm gonna throw something different at you, because the last time I talked with Coach Winburn here, who was the biggest fan of Bob Stoops and Barry Switzer, OU was undefeated, and there's a little game coming up on December the 3rd that features, and I better knock on wood, an Oklahoma State undefeated team and a once beaten Oklahoma team. A little bit unusual. This may be the first time, I don't know, maybe the first time in my lifetime that OSU has a better record than OU playing in Bedlam. Do you ever remember that?
No. Well, that's the first time in the history of Oklahoma State University football they've ever been 10-0. So that tells it right there.
You're and you love them both, but
Yeah.
you're a little more crimson cream.
I'm very crimson and cream when it comes down.
Where does that come from?
It's the way I've been all my life. I remember as a 6-year-old kid, I was rooting for.
Where
the
were you
Sooners.
born?
Marshall, Oklahoma.
Marshall,
Enid
Oklahoma.
actually is where I was born.
Okay. So if you were born in Marshall, Oklahoma, and I don't want to date you too much, but you were Chuck Fairbanks was you were not Bud Wilkinson, but you were Chuck Fairbanks. More, is that accurate?
Well, I can still remember Bud Wilkinson's football shows. He had the little board and the little buttons, and we kind of use those in basketball today. But I remember him showing the T formation and all that. I was a big Bud Wilkinson fan.
Who was the guy that you saw when you were old enough to know you wanted to be an athlete, or even maybe wanted to coach? Who was the guy you saw, or the lady you saw? I assume a guy, and you said, "That's for me. If I can't play on Sundays pro football, or if I can't be a professional athlete, I know I want to be a coach." Who was the guy?
I don't know whether I really had anyone. It was just a generalization. I just remember Tommy McDonald was one of my favorites.
Interesting, yeah.
And was it 1952? I guess it was. And I can remember watching Tommy McDonald on Saturdays play, and I always admired him, and what a great athlete and what a great performer he was. And so I guess probably go back to him, Tommy McDonald.
Billy Vessels.
Billy Vessels, tremendous athlete.
The thing about that is, you mentioned Marshall, Oklahoma. There was a time when you'd see kids from a Marshall, Oklahoma, or a Cleveland, Oklahoma, or you don't see many 2 and 3A kids winning Heisman trophies anymore. But there was a day when, if you were a kid from Oklahoma, I always remember Tinker Owens, and he was a great player from Miami, Oklahoma, and his brother Steve Owens won the Heisman. And I read a book about Tinker Owens one time, and he was very highly recruited. And I always felt this way too. I was not a great athlete. I wasn't even a good athlete. But he said, if you're a boy from Oklahoma and you're recruited, if it was the 60s or 70s, if you were recruited by Oklahoma, that was where you were going to go. Did you always feel that way too?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a good comment. And, I remember Steve Owens. In fact, I went to college with his teammate, running mate. So we talked a lot about Steve Owens.
Yeah.
Great time in my life. I still love football. It's probably my favorite sport in the fall season.
Isn't it funny to go back, though, and now you see some of these people that you watched and you enjoyed, and now you go back as our athletic director or as our girls basketball coach, and you get to meet some of these people. I know that Bobby Knight's been a big influence, and there was a time when you watched him on TV, and then you end up meeting him and being able to learn something. I've had that happen to me in my profession as well. It's very interesting, very strange too.
It is, and I had a chance to really get close to that program and to that person, and especially to his wife. We were very good friends, and they gave me the understanding that I have today about basketball and what a genius that guy is. I don't support a lot of the things that he does, obviously.
Right.
But if you can pick his brain and get inside of him, there's a tremendous amount of knowledge there that he has.
What about things that are important in coaching and in teaching that aren't X's and O's? Because there's not a lot of coaches that I have always felt like when they talked, you listened maybe more to what they were trying to get kids to understand. You're one of those guys because you're an X's and O guy, but I think there's a lot of things that you say, and I think Coach Fry, our football coach, does this a lot too. If they understand what you're trying to teach them, they'll understand how to play the game of basketball. Does that make any sense?
It does, and the two things that I still believe that we hang our hats on, X's and O's are important. Kids got to know X's and O's, but integrity and character are still the bottom things. I mean, those are right there. What you look for is the strength of who you are is based upon your integrity and upon your character, and that always comes out in times of difficulty.
Kids always wonder, why do we have to run? Why do we have to dribble 20 minutes every practice with our right and our left hands? And one day they'll understand that that's the only way you can understand the X's and O's is if you can do the fundamentals and if you're in shape too.
I never did get to meet Tom Osborne, but they say, and I think I patterned my coaching very similar to his, that at 4:35 you could almost know exactly what drill he was doing every day because every day at 4:35 that's what they did. Consistency and patterns and developing that style of play from just doing it every day.
Do you try to have that type of a structure for your team, Coach?
We do. We don't do complicated things. We do simple things. We move very quickly through a practice. We try not to be stale in our practice efforts, and we practice the basic fundamentals every day. We never get away from that.
We visited about 3 weeks ago about your girls' basketball team, and one thing that we didn't talk too much about is a change on your staff. People will see a young lady who has joined your staff this year, and I always like to talk about these things because they are new people in our community, but when they're at the Robson Fieldhouse or they're on the road at a game, they're gonna see somebody that's gonna be pretty close to you, probably carrying a clipboard and visiting with you about strategies, and kind of introduce our new coach to our community.
Well, her name is Christina Maralt. And there again, I've always believed in this factor that if you want to be successful in life, you always surround yourself with good people. And so she was a hire this summer for us, a great classroom teacher. She goes back in tradition to Jim Peck, who is her grandfather from Woodward. He's a Hall of Fame coach, tremendous person to be around. Not only is he a great coach, but just a great person, character, integrity also. And she has those qualities. Obviously, they're blood. I mean, that's how she was raised, and so they're there. And so I think she's going to be a great coach for us, already is. And kids have accepted her, they like her, they respect her, and so she's going to add a lot to our program.
It's an interesting scenario when you are a male coach of a female sport. And if you will have noticed, your top assistants have traditionally been males, and it's not anything that maybe you consciously tried to do, but I think that in some ways it is good to have a lady who can go into the locker rooms at times where you may not feel comfortable doing that, or talking with them about things that maybe a man doesn't feel comfortable with, and she is young so she can relate to them. So there are some things there that might be off the court helping our girls program.
You're exactly right on target, Phil. There's a lot of times you can't talk about things with females as a male coach. That it's very difficult. So she opens that opportunity up for us because she can relate to a female's feelings and ideas and understandings. And a lot of times I can say something, but it doesn't get across as well as if a female brings it out. So she's a plus for us, a positive situation. If nothing more than, hey, are the kids dressed? And she can go in and make sure they're dressed.
Absolutely. As a reporter, there's a wall there, and I don't ever walk behind that wall. There could be nobody in there, and I won't walk behind it. And I think you're probably the same way. It's nice to have somebody that can say all clear once in a while. Larry Reel once told me the worst thing that could happen the day of a basketball game, a girls' basketball game, and I said, what, an injury? And he said, no, a breakup with a boyfriend. That's a hard thing for a guy to handle, but it may not be. Maybe your new coach can delve into that a little bit too.
Well, she can, and she relieves the tension. Obviously I'm the bad guy, and she's the good guy, and so after I've got across some points to them in different manners, then she can go in and kind of smooth things up a little bit. So
Absolutely.
she's positive in that way for us.
Who's working with some of the downline programs and your coaching staff too?
Well, we got Brad Lammer again in our freshman, who does a great job, and his experience is invaluable to us. Experience is such a great quality that you sure like to have that around, and he provides that for us. And then Katrina Jones is working with our 8th graders, and then we moved Chad Bodenstein from assistant position with me down to the head 8th grade job. And so Chad's doing a great job, he and Katrina, and then Brad there in the freshman, and then Christina and I in the varsity level. So it's good, it's positive.
You had a tough scrimmage with Newkirk the other night. Coach, tell us about it.
Well, that's such a difficult situation for us. I know all the parents and all the kids, and I still live there, and so it's a tough situation because they really want to beat us, and they really want to be impressive with us, and I'm in the same way with them. You spend 18 years of your life in a program, and you become a fixture in that program, and so there's a tremendous amount of respect they have for me and I have for them, and the kids that have played for me in there. So it's always a difficult situation, but it's a good thing too.
Well, it'd be easy not to schedule that scrimmage, but what you have to realize is that obviously Newkirk would be highly motivated for that type of a scrimmage, whereas maybe knowing what you have coming up during the regular season with the schedule, you put more emphasis on more players getting into the action and seeing what some of the younger players can do, as opposed to setting up and trying to score a last basket to win a quarter, that type of thing. Would that be accurate to say?
That is very accurate. It's always a good situation, and we scrimmage twice. We'll scrimmage before Christmas, and then we'll scrimmage during the Christmas break. And again, it's hello to all the kids that I know so well and their parents, and it's just a fun time for me, and I hope it's a fun time for them. And we go back up there Christmas time and go up to the field house, the Mark Branch field house in Newkirk. Kind of a special deal. You spend, like I said, 18 years somewhere. It's kind of like going home again.
You're coming up on full week this week. Then we have the staggered week, which the kids will have the Thanksgiving break. What do we got going on in that very important 2 weeks before we open the season?
Well, we decided to take on the big guys this week. We go to Edmond Santa Fe, who was the defending state champion last year in 6A, ranked #1 right now. Got the Courtney Walker kid that's signed with Texas A&M. So it's a tremendous obstacle for us to just go scrimmage them and just see if we can stay alive. So we're going to have to be very competitive tomorrow. We're going to have to work extremely hard, and we're going to learn about how good Edmond Santa Fe is tomorrow. And then also we added to that Anadarko, which is a top-ranked team in 4A, probably ranked #1 or 2 preseason. So big test for us there, and then we're going over to Sapulpa Thursday, and we're going to be tested by them. She's got several starters back and ranked #10 in 6A. So we're taking on 2 difficult days of basketball, but that's good for us. That prepares us and hones us in for that last week of practice.
Very good. Coach, happy Thanksgiving to you and Mary. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks,
I
Phil.
like your insight on OU and OSU, and I'm sure on the radio and on TV we can have a little fun with that after the ball game too.
Yeah.
And we look forward to it. Dwight Winburn, our athletic director, our girls basketball coach, on this week's edition of Coach's Corner.